said, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
In my sister's soul, I'm gonna let it in my sister's soul now. I'm gonna let it in my sister's soul. I am going to let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
In my Father's eyes, I'm gonna let it shine. In my Father's eyes, I'm gonna let it shine. In my Father's eyes, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
I'm telling you, way in Minneapolis, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna tell you, in Minneapolis, I'm gonna stand by the sidelines, but I'm gonna shine. I'm gonna listen to the black voices now, because it's their time to shine. It's their time to shine, to shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let
it shine.
All around the world, I'm gonna let it. My friends, this is, I want to introduce to you my friend whom you have seen on this before on his iPhone. He looks a little more in control when he's there in his home, and I'm in Bethany's home, and I know you haven't seen me and you were concerned, but as of a week ago, 2 days, I heard the call and I felt it was absolutely essential that oh my goodness, that sound is really not gonna fly here. Let me turn this off. Okay. As of, I just said, and I felt it was the right thing to do, but I also realized that it was profoundly effective, that all of a sudden people began to think and feel and talk about the reality of racism in each and every one of us. I mean, it wasn't just looking for a scapegoat or saying, oh, those terrible racists, and I think that's the kind of fundamental change that we've got to have, is to, I got a call from somebody today saying, well, we're looking at our board of directors and, we're seeing if we have the proper sensitivity to this. But it's more than that. It's realizing that the horror of oppression that has been visited on people who were promised 400 years ago, that there was going to be. Gene McCarthy said something. I've got a clip on that, and I should have brought it for tonight. He said, he was asked, do you think, this is during the campaign in '68, do you think that increasing the size of the police force will help us rid the cities of crime? He said, I don't think that to begin to do it. He said, I think we're getting to realizing that some people who've been promised, equity and freedom and justice 400 years ago, it's not a surprise that they're finally beginning to take that promise seriously. So that was Gene McCarthy. So what I like to do today, because Steve and I are here to swap songs and share our thoughts, I thought, out of respect for what we're experiencing, kind of at the top of the ladder is the voices, the anguished voices, but also the released voices, and it's not a monolithic voice, but we, and I'm an old hand that I was in the civil rights movement when you were most of you just not even thinking about such stuff, but I want to honor that. And Steve, there's a song that you were singing a little bit before that is so great. Can you just tell people about it and who wrote it and whatnot?
A song called "One Drop of Water," and that the idea behind it is that I want to be one drop of water in an ocean of hope. So it takes a village. It's going to take all of us to make such a change in the world that is so needed. And I wrote it the day after Rosa Parks died. Another 12-hour day. No, another 12-hour day. Working as a seamstress in Montgomery. She climbed aboard that bus. There was nobody sitting there when she took that seat. She said, "I'm not getting up." An ordinary act of courage that sparked a revolution. She wasn't trying to be a problem, just part of the solution. She was one drop of water in an ocean of hope. One voice of reason who finally spoke. Said, if we're ever gonna get along, if peace is our desire, we're never gonna get there fighting fire with fire. She was one drop of water. He called himself a common man, not a hero, not a saint. He said war just leads to war. And he fought for freedom the non-violent way. A cause he died for. He believed that we could change this world with quiet dignity. Hundreds grew to thousands when he marched down to the sea. He was one drop of water in an ocean of hope. One voice of reason who finally spoke. Said, if we're ever gonna get along, if peace is our desire, we're never gonna get there fighting fire with fire. He was one drop of water. Now you can wage a war with words or weapons. You can pray for peace or make it happen. I want to be one drop of water in an ocean of hope. One voice of reason who finally spoke. Said, if we're ever gonna get along, if peace is our desire, we're never gonna get there fighting fire with fire. I wanna be one drop of water. Let me be one drop of water in an ocean of hope. In an ocean of hope.
Oh my God, I'm clapping for I'm just so.
Thank you, Peter. Thank
I
you.
love that. So, oh, thanks is like thanks in this case is like a de minimis expression of what I feel. So, I mean, it's philosophically and poetically, you're ridiculous.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to sing a song to remember the March on Washington that Mary and Noel and I did, and I'm going to sing one line, and then I'm going to do a retard, and Steve's going to come in on the next line. We're doing it in the key of C. He doesn't know what the song is, and he doesn't know the words. It's not Puff the Magic Dragon.
Hooray!
Okay. How many roads must a man walk down before they call him a man?
And how many
Seas?
seas will it take?
No, how
You
seas?
got me on the second line.
Okay, all right, I'm going to get the
I know
second
this
one.
song.
How
know this song.
many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? How many times must the cannonballs fly?
And how many times must the cannonballs fly before they are forever banned?
And the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
The answer is blowing in the wind.
How many years can a mountain exist?
How many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea?
How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? How many times can a man?
How many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
How many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? How many ears must one man have?
How many years must one man have
Before he can hear people cry? How many deaths will it take?
and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Do the second verse again. How many years can a mountain exist, a mountain of racial prejudice and hatred, before it is washed to the sea? How many years can some people exist?
And how many years can some people exist before they are allowed to be free?
And how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see?
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
And the answer, my friend, it is in us. The answer is compassion, love, and solidarity.
Amen.
Amen. And so, Steve, when we sang that song there, it was the week before it peaked on the charts. And it was the first song that America, a large portion of America, had heard. And Bob Dylan had been up in my home in Woodstock writing songs while his girlfriend Susie Rotolo and I were going to Art Students League. We'd come home and he'd written Masters of War or stuff like that.
Yeah, like,
So
yeah.
this was, you know, I mean, it just, okay. Another song. And that, when we went to Washington, we sang that song. If you see the video of it, you see the people holding hands and they're singing it. They know it. And for us, it was a transformational moment, for sure. Beyond transformational. I think it set the course for how we continue to stay together for all that time. And I remember, yep.
I was just going to say the two things that strike me about that song. One is just how amazing it is, and how it's every word sounds like you could have written it yesterday. Now that is both a good thing and a not so good thing, because some of the how many's, it's like, oh my God, we're still, how far have we come or not, you know, from that time. And I know I am, as you are, a firm believer in that doesn't mean we don't keep trying, you know.
Well, we have no alternative.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's either at this point, if we don't recognize that it's the push comes to shove of all time, it's really does not look good. And sometimes, you know, over the years, people have said, "Oh, it's got to get worse before it's going to get better." Well, it better start getting better soon.
It already has.
Yes, it already has
worse.
gotten worse. So what I want to do now is play something from the next generation that I sent to Stephen. He has seen it, and some of you have seen it too, who are on. It's a video that my daughter made when the killing occurred. And something inside me knew that the streets were going to be in flames and on fire. And it is not up to me to make judgments about that, but there are some extraordinary things that have been said. For instance, the mayor of Atlanta, who, well, you know, the point is not to do more than help as a person who is Caucasian, is to allow the enfranchisement. So I am studious of doing that. But here are the Parkland students, and there's this conjunction of Parkland students who Steve and I worked with. Steve actually taught this bunch of songwriters how to mentor kids so that the maximum would be contributed by them in terms of music and words. And then we split into 3 groups. And we wrote 13 songs over the next 2 days between 4 and 11 o'clock at night. One of the songs was mentored by, and you can hear him singing on this, by Keith Secola, who is frequently referred to as the founder of music, contemporary music of Native American consciousness voice. And he wrote a song called Indian Car, which was quite famous. And he is the most loving guy in the world, and he is a magical person. And with those students, now you're going to hear him singing on this, but this is another aspect of what it is, because in the streets there are a lot of people who are joining together and saying, we are on your side. And in this case, it's these students. And at the end of this video, you're going to see that it is dedicated in solidarity to Black Lives Matter and their quest to end racism in America. But Bethany, you've seen her on this broadcast many times, I know, but she is a person of many gifts, and when she made this video, it's pretty extraordinary, and I want you to look at it, and then we'll talk about it. And but Samir, are you there and ready to rock and roll with it, please? Many gifts, and when she made this video, and it's pretty extraordinary, and I want you to look at it, and then we'll talk about it. But Samir, are you there and ready to rock and roll with it, please?
March down the street and let the world know that we can't be beat. Because you will hear us chant, you will hear us scream. And right now, we change everything because it needs to stop. No more kids in their classroom getting shot. This is one battle that needs to get fought. And we can't give up this fight. We cannot relent day nor night. So join us and rise. Join us and they will hear our cries.
Wow.
Here I got it. All right.
There you are.
I'm so proud. And there's something that's of great solemnity at the end when there's no noise or no music, and you just see that expression of solidarity. And to me, the Parkland students and people of all students in America, 230,000 of them who have been present in schools where there has been a shooting, carry something in common with people of color, with black people and people of color, because they have been living in fear, and not unreasonable fear. They don't know if, and their parents don't know if when they go to school, and why. The cause is the same. It is the same, the same reason that guns are allowed is that money and commerce and business and wealth have the power and prevail and write the laws, where you see, I don't know, 70% of Americans, or what, more than that, don't want assault weapons on the street, and yet they sustain. It is the corruption of the democratic process when the will of the people, as it's clearly expressed, is not allowed to get engaged in the process of determining what happens. And in the same sense, now we see that, how can you imagine these kids? Well, we worked with them. Steve, talk a little bit about what we experienced when we were there.
Well, well, first of all, I want to just say one thing about the video, which was very, very moving. And it was amazing to me how applicable most of the words to that song, which was written for right after the Parkland school shooting massacre, about their plight and about that oppression and about their fight to get guns out of schools, and yet, oh my God, it was so analogous to the situation, getting power to the oppressed, and it emotionally it clicked for me to hear those words, because I saw that about an hour ago, but I mean till then I hadn't seen or heard that song in that context, and yet it worked beautifully. When we went to Parkland, the short version of it is. Peter here doesn't take enough credit ever, but he organized a group of songwriters, and I was honored, privileged to be one of them. And what was interesting about that group of songwriters is they came from all over the map, musically, culturally. There was diversity. The idea wasn't to have like Peter and I and 9 other songwriters our age, white. So Peter did an amazing job, like gathering people who brought something to the table, and it was a little something different to the table. We had different skills, and we basically spent 3 nights working with somewhere between 25 and 40 of the students. There were different ones there, different nights, but for the most part, we were working with students who were not well versed in songwriting. They weren't songwriters per se, as in they had written lots of songs. That was our job to guide the effort. But the 2 things that I remember most about that time was one, being aware that our job was to write songs with them, but have the words be their words, not to craft them into what we would say as adults, was to capture the emotional depth and the raw emotion of what they had just been through. And I think we did that. And within that notion, I think the other thing that occurred to us was that there needed to be some healing, and that they were not probably going to ask for the healing. as much as embrace it when it was offered. So the kids were very, very agenda driven. You know, no more guns in our school. Like, we got to put a stop to this. And they were fervent, and it was great. But what some of the songs that were written along the way also addressed how much they were hurting and how much healing they needed. And that was something that we had to go in realizing was a necessary, not even secondary, equal to the task of the agenda and getting the word out that there needs to be some change in this area was also to help them heal. And I really feel like we accomplished all that with a lot of help from the students.
Yeah, they were. I when I characterized it, I wrote a little blurb about it. I said that to me, in many ways, this was as powerful as an experience as being at the March on Washington, because the depth of what they were experiencing. Remember that since that, two of their classmates have taken their own lives. That it's a you know, this is racism, but until you understand the depth of it, until you understand that some of those kids who wrote these songs, I know particularly one of the singers here has written suicide notes. I mean, I know this. I cannot tell you, until we come to terms with it. It's like coming to terms with what it's like to be a person of color. You do not know until you're with these kids, and our being with these kids. There was one kid who was the best friend of Joaquin Oliver, who was the basketball star, and his father had opened his home for us to do this, and sometimes he was up there and doing it, and sometimes you'd watch him, he'd go inside himself, and you could see that his heart was burning. And it was he looked at the person in the chair who at the time occupied and still does the presidency, and he started crying, and he said, how can this his best friend? And the answer, my friend, is compassion. Because if we have compassion, then we can answer these questions. How many times must a man look up before he can see how many times do you have to see these kids in agony and see what happened in Columbine with those kids after 20 years, and their lives are plagued by it? How many times do we have to see this? How many murders do we have to see before we deal with the reality of it? And if we are so sick as human beings that we are not able to feel it, then we don't have the answers that are blowing in the wind. We are exempt, alas, from the process of making the world work. So this experience was important, and I think I'm kind of veering towards the idea that now you've got these kids, Emma Gonzalez and David Hogue, and now these kids who are writing songs. These are like blowing in the wind songs. The first song, Steve showed everybody how, because a lot of people there had never tutored or helped kids write songs, and they didn't know how to get the most out of what they could contribute. But he said, okay, I want you to suggest this is for the first song. He said, we're going to kind of key off of a title. Would you suggest titles? This is all on tape, by the way. There was a film crew there. So he says and they suggested various titles. And one of the titles that was chosen by the students was Song for the Silenced. And this was, as you were saying, this wasn't, we're going to go get it. This is rest in power, rest in peace. This is a song for the silenced, the ones who were lost in the sea of violence. Speak out for those who can't speak anymore. They are the ones we are fighting for. And that was the first song. And yeah, it's true that not only did they write, 90% of the words, but there was a certain moment, and I have it captured on the couch, where the kids, trees' roots, they were all connected, and they got a melody simultaneously that they were all thinking of. It was an astonishing moment.
Well, at the same time that I said that a lot of them weren't songwriters, a lot of them were very musical, though.
Oh,
We
yeah.
had a lot of the high school musical theater people, and so they were good singers and knew their way around a melody and music. And again, our job was just to help them mold what was coming out of them, which was a lot, you know. So
Right. Well, and here we are. Steve and I are Caucasian. We are both Jewish. We both have in our history the legacy of Jewishness, which includes the very focused memory of being slaves. It's part of the traditions of the Seder, in Passover. The legacy of the Holocaust. We have all of this, and it was that connected Jews of a progressive, heart in the civil rights movement of the 60s. And the person who spoke prior to Martin Luther King was a rabbi by the name, I won't pronounce it right, it's Joachim Prinz, Prinz, and he said that and he was powerful, and he said that the abuse, what was being visited that was most severe was silence in the face of it. And that is the accumulated silence, not seeing. How many times can a man turn his head before he can be? How many times must a man look up before he can see? What is it? And so we ask ourselves now, because we have to be very, very cautious, because if our voices drown out the voices of those people who have to speak for themselves, for their own dignity, and because we won't get it right until we do enfranchise people or allow people to enfranchise themselves. So I'm going to play you something that's going to be an upper, because you're wondering, what was I doing with these days when I wasn't with you? Well, one of the things is something that you're going to see. I'm not going to tell you more about it until you watch it, but then I'll explain what it is. And Steve has a role in this process, but you're going to see some kids and Peter acting like my mother, and you'll see what I mean. Samir, are you with us, my brother? And let me call Samir, because please. Oh, here he is. Does anybody know what Standing Rock was? If I say the words, raise your hand if you do. Standing Rock was a place where there was a demonstration by Native Americans because the pipeline, pipeline from Canada carrying gas, was crossing their sacred lands, and they were going to destroy them. And this has been going on forever. You know that there has been a genocide from the get-go. When raise your hand if you do. It came to the United States. I mean, when Europeans came to the United States, and in this case, they took a stand. And after a while, there were tens of nations were there, and when we arrived there were 5,000-6,000 people. Well, she was at the Unity concert on the second year. She came out into a leadership position, and then Bethany, my daughter, who you'll see in the next video, asked her to write a song, and this is the song she wrote. Now I want you to imagine that you are standing at a demonstration, and on one side are your friends who are, and they are black, they are Native American, they are Hispanic, they are white, they are gay, lesbian, LGBT, queer, they are all the things that epitomize a sense of this thing that, as you said, I think it was you, Katharina, that you were proud of being different. No, it was somebody else said you were, that was Lavna. Yeah. So you're proud of being different. You're proud of your differences. You're not proud of being different. You're proud that you are who you are, unapologetically. And you are demonstrating. And across the road over there are people who are demonstrating against you. And they are holding up signs. They're holding up signs. Some of them say, that one of them has a picture of an AK-47 or an AR-15. And one of you is a student from Parkland who was there in the building when your friends were killed. And you want to say, what are you going to say? And you have 5 words or so to say to each of them. And you go to one, and the first one is your friends, and you say, and then you turn to them and you say something else. In other words, you have, the microphone is yours. Everybody is quiet for some reason, or at least you can be heard. What message are you going to tell your friends? After having seen this last video, what would be in your heart to say to the group that is gathered there, that's diverse in the extreme? And what would be to those who are saying, horrible, horrible things and making obscene gestures? What would you say? Does anybody have something? Now, if you want to only say, I have something to say, you could just say, I know what I want to say to the people I'm with, or you could say, I want to say something to the people who are opposing us. And if you want to do one of those, that's good. You don't have to do both. Or you can do both. Yes, Naomi. Who would you be addressing?
Can I address both?
Yes, please.
What I would say to my friends, I would say, I love you so much. It doesn't matter what the other people think of you. I just love you. Don't ever change who you are. And to the people who are saying the stuff like, you shouldn't be here or anything like that, I would say you have no right to be saying that to people. And that's really it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Naomi. Yes, Lavanya. Lavanya.
I would say to both, I would say just choose love. One of my friends he was a student at Parkland, and I've talked with him about it, and I think one of the most important things after something like that happens is just, instead of focusing on all the negative and all the bad things that do happen, is just focusing on love and the good stuff and coming together and sharing that.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Lovely. Both strong statements. Anybody else? Yes. Kirthana.
Yeah.
Kirthana.
Yeah. So what I would say to my friends would be to stay strong, because we're all the same and there's no reason for anyone to tell you any different. And to the other side, I would tell them that I hope they learn to love one another someday, and that they don't feel the need to spread hate instead of spreading love and equality.
So what you're doing is, in the second group, is engaging them and acting. This is something very new that my daughter was just telling me about, that instead of confronting, what you're doing is engaging and trying to draw them in some kind of way. It's a kind of a shift. It's just now beginning to happen.
Yeah, my
I mean,
grandmother has always told me to do it that way instead of spreading negativity onto them because they're spreading negativity to you. Just say, I hope that you are able to fix it, and I hope that you can find love and you can change it.
that insult. Anybody else? There's no bad thing to say. You can say whatever you want. Carl, it's your turn. Yes.
To my friends, I would say, I am proud of us, and you should be too.
Great. Thank you. And Lily Marie, what would you have said?
I would say to my friends that if we're united, they can't hurt us. Because if we're all together and we're just conveying the message that no one can hurt us if we're together and we're all united, then that's what it is.
Fantastic. Yes, Katie.
I would thank my friends for their strength and tell them to keep staying strong and being kind. And to people spreading hate, I would ask them to use that energy to spread kindness and do something good instead of spreading hate.
Wow, fantastic. Ayana.
So I would probably say what everyone else said to their friends, kind of just like that. But what I would say to the people who are like hating, I would ask them what they gain from hating people and not accepting everyone for who they are.
Beautiful. And Santina.
I would definitely say to the people that are hating to love yourself, because if you love yourself, then there's no reason to be spreading hate in everyone. So clearly that if you have a problem with everyone else, it's just a deeply rooted problem with yourself.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Cameron, yes.
I would say to my friends, stand up for what you think is right. Your difference is your power. And to the haters, I would say we're all simply humans on this earth, and no good can ever come from hate and judgment.
And there you are, my friends. It's extraordinary. Steve, we've been with activists galore in our lives. Can you imagine a bunch of adult activists of our age getting together, being asked this question, what would you say to the people who are threatening you and screaming at you and holding up vicious signs and looking at you with hatred and threatening you? And what would you say to the people? I mean, when I heard this, though, these are all arts students. They're all arts, and the language of the arts opens them up. And to me, this was extraordinary. And you might say, well, why are you doing this? Well, there's an idea that occurred, and it is evolving, but it's what we're looking at is the possibility of a television, perhaps, series in which students hear songs. I would play you the song that this came out of, because it's unbelievable. But it's fairly long and it's amazing, and but I just, it's less important than to see what they said. And I don't think adults realize how wide open these kids' eyes are. These are not just idealistic kids. They just are resilient, and they're refusing to be demolished. But if you go to an inner city, and I know there was a principal that I met, well, actually he wasn't, he was on the Board of Regents in New York, and he was having problems going to, trying to figure it out. He was going to the schools, and he saw these little kids, these little minority kids, black kids, Hispanic kids in America. This was 20 years ago. And they were so unbelievable and so excited. And then you would go to high school, and it was all just the sorrow, the sadness, the pain, the fear. It was just the dominant cover over it. Then he went to a school. Steve would know this as well as I do. He went into school, and it was different. He all of a sudden he said, "What's going on here?" You could just feel it. There's no hostility. It was just. Then he heard the sound of something, and it was sound of singing, and he followed the sound, and it was a chorus, an all-black school, a chorus that was rehearsing to go to Germany in a competition. And just the existence of the arts in that school gave a sense of resilience and togetherness, and both Steve and I went to such a school, which was kind of, I'm spending my life, Steve, the truth of the matter, trying to make the world like that school.
That's right. We went to the same high school.
That's right.
The High School of Music and Art.
Right.
Wow. That was the best experience ever.
Wasn't it?
You know, we went at different times because you're younger than I am.
Yeah, that's true.
Wait. I think I made a mistake.
Right.
You're older than I am.
Yeah.
That's right, not younger. But when I was going to music and art, you were singing at the March on Washington. Like I grew up. I need to just tell you this for a minute. That I grew up listening to Pete Seeger and the Weavers and Peter, Paul and Mary and Phil Oakes, and that that high school was literally on the campus of CCNY, City College in New York, at 135th Street, at least when I went. And we would organize buses to go down to Washington, D.C. to protest the war in Vietnam, and singing all those songs that were coming out of you. So you guys played a very important role in that process, as music always has.
Right, it's true. And today, if I can segue into something else that's happening that we are both involved in. We went to the same high school. Steve wrote the song that inspired the creation of Operation Respect. There's a conjunction about many of the things that we do. And we found ourselves in the same place at a convention of the first year of something it's called now Braver Angels. At the time it was called Better Angels, but it's the same deal. And this is, when we're talking about the next generation, their resilience, and we're talking about what we need to do, what do Caucasians need to do in regard to all of it, but in regard to black people? What we need to do is understand that the kind of hatred, the kind of animosity, the kind of rejection of other people simply because they've got that uniform on or their color of their skin it is a sickness that we have to get over. And it's not just a sickness of that sort. The sickness of Braver Angels that it is addressing is a sickness that could bring this country down. And that sickness is the inability to know that we are, almost all of us, we may have drunk the Kool-Aid on either side, but we want the best for our country. We really do. And when we are unable to listen to people who have a different point of view, and a lot of you who are listening, I know I love you very much, but you were like me before I went to the first, this was the second workshop, and I brought a film crew that was Jim Brown, who did Peter, Paul and Mary documentaries, and he did The Power of Song for Pete Seeger. He's perhaps the most renowned documentary filmmaker in the world of folk music. And we went down there to document what I knew, because I knew from the report by Dr. Bill Doherty, who developed the methodology when he brought in a little town in Lebanon, Ohio, that voted 80% for Trump. He brought a group of Reds and Blacks together who could not believe that they were there. I mean, yeah, they did, and they came. So they weren't, just totally unable to even consider the possibility. They came there for a lot of reasons. But before they got together, we interviewed them. And one of them said, I love Don Trump. I love him because if you think about it, he's given his life for this country. And then we have a woman of color who says, I think that racism is back, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid that now I want to know, how is it that people that voted for Obama twice voted for Trump? And then you've got this very, very deeply committed Christian who's just dissolved into tears when the discussion was about babies not being born. I mean, it was, and he says, honestly, I'd like to talk to some of these people, but to talk to somebody who's got a different skin color than me, or not of my faith, this guy and the Muslim wound up after this, the Muslim going to his church, and he was going to the Muslim's mosque, and there he was hugging the woman of color, and there was a gay young man who was just, I mean, it was an extraordinary group, but what happened was that, and this is where the push comes to shove, what happens is that once they got to know each other, they exploded the mythology of the stereotypes with which they had regarded each other, and all of a sudden they became human beings. This guy is still, loves Don Trump, still loves Don Trump. But when he spoke, he realized, well, I don't know what he's reading, because this is a reasonable guy. I don't know what he's listening. So a lot of it was a matter of not realizing that these people were really, really good people. I wound up singing with Lynch, the country singer, and we were at his farm.
The fellow with the belt buckle as big as Montana.
That's right.
That guy.
And we were singing "This Land Is Your Land" together, and he was the head of the Tea Party in that part of the country. And I'm not, you're going to say, are you crazy, Pete? No, I'm not crazy. And that's the point. We have to let the scales fall. Why? Because if we do not have the capacity to stand up for what is right when it's time to do that, we fall into the category of those people who become a society dominated by the absence of a democracy, put it that way. And so the enemy of a democracy is separating people. In Nazi Germany, it was the Jews, and you have to have your scapegoats lined up. You have to have your Jews and your gypsies and your people with mental illness and your gays and your lesbians. And now we have them lined up here. We have, the people who are, being ridiculed because they're, Muslims and Hondurans and Guatemalans and El Salvadorans and Mexicans and immigrants. And And you've got that, and people really are afraid they're going to kill them. Listen, this is what we have to deal with. So I want to tell you, this country needs not just to have these, they have workshops in every state. In every state, they have all kinds of workshops. But we found something out incredible. We found that when people watch the documentary of that second meeting, they get a dose of it vicariously. So we're trying to get as many people to see it, because even if it just, it relieves them from a little bit of fear, and they say, oh my God, I didn't realize that these are people I could talk to. Well, now comes the thing. Sage, who is on the line, Sage is heading a wonderful effort, which is it's a songwriting contest, a songwriting contest, and you are all invited to participate, to express the ideals, to express the commitment to not being dislodged from your humanity, the commitment to be able to see beyond, as that incredible song "Even You," written by and he also wrote a $20 bill.
Tom Prasada Rao.
Don Prasada Rao. Here's that song, and he sees somebody that you would expect, like these kids. What are you going to say to a person on the street corner with a sign that says, "Sacrifice the weak, open Memphis"? I mean, it sounds like something out of the Third Reich. But where did he go with it? He said, he got around it. He said, whatever you've done, there's a place we can find it. And just to say those words, that's the kind of humanity that these kids have. So what I want you to do, all of you, and Steve, I wanted you to talk about it from your perspective. Steve and I are both judges in this contest. What we want you to do is to write songs and submit them. And I will, post the information, how you, because if we have music like this that reemerges, we can have the kind of humanity that is elicited from us when we have music. And we can, because the arts bypass the brain and they go to the heart and the reptilian brain. And people, they just go for it. Like Peter, Paul, and Mary, we would have people from the Pentagon sing, Peter, Paul, and Mary sing, when we were in the Washington area.
I've always said it plants seeds. If it's possible in a song, if you can say it in a song and it doesn't sound like totally off the wall, like it sounds plausible, the "even you" kind of sentiment, well, then that just might give somebody the idea to have that kind of depth of feeling and compassion for somebody that it'd be way easier for them to hate based on their immediate behavior. And in terms of the blue and red, we all, I don't know, when I went to the Better Angels, now called Braver Angels, because they, I think, decided that it takes a brave person to really go to this place. But when I first went there, I was like, wow, this is going to be interesting. Hanging out with, I think there were like 300 to 400 people there, a couple hundred of each side. And I realized, when is the last time, and the answer would be never, that I hung out with this many people who weren't like-minded with me. I live in San Francisco. We tend to hang out with people who yeah, you're right. Yeah. Like who we agree with. And even those of us who are theoretically open-minded to the other side, and we don't usually get firsthand exposure to them. And that's what's so amazing to me about the Better Angels, Braver Angels project, is to actually interact and I will say this to a person, every person that was at that conference really wanted to get to the bottom of, to find out, to have in-depth conversations with people from the other side and really wanted to maybe get a better understanding of why they thought what they thought about any given topic. And we don't get a chance to do that that often, and it never, at least I never saw it, transcended into shouting and calling names and the Facebook model, you know. Uh, it just remained respectful. Not always agreeing, but it remained respectful. Uh, so,
Not at all. Continuing to disagree, but to agree that it's okay to disagree. And the important thing, as I see it, is that we understand that it's making this connection across the political divide is not simply about feeling better. It's not feeling just eliminating the fact that you can't speak to your cousin or whatever anymore because they're hopeless and they're useless and they're despicable. No, what it's about is that the moment we don't see them as the other, as the other, as the enemy, the moment we don't hate and fear them, we can breathe, we can think rationally, because if we're functioning out of fear, like at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, that's all we can think about. So if we can reduce the fear in Americans, not only will they think more rationally about people that they don't know or understand or have to spend time with, or people of color, or black people, or Muslims, or Hondurans, or whatever, they will also think differently about policies. They'll say, what really is going to help me in my life? And they will vote differently because they'll be able to vote in a less default fashion. So to make democracy work, that's where I'm taking it. To make democracy work, we need to reach across the line. And if we don't, we stand the chance of losing it. Now, I have written a whole précis of this, which I emailed to you. I don't know if you saw, Steve, but you'll see this morning about what Brave Angels means to me and where you might go in songwriting. And so what I'm going to do is going to, at everybody who, on the next broadcast, there will be a link to see that, but I'll also, for those of you who I'm emailing that are my circle of friends, I'll get that out to you. And I want to suggest something that I've never done. But I've never been on the darn computer in this way in my life. But what I would like to do is to offer to you that I'll take a couple of your lyrics or fragments that you write. And I don't know if they'll be eligible because I'm a judge, you know what I mean? And so if I'm going to write it, then I have to recuse myself. But I'll help you get somewhere with it. And I'm not going to spend 17 days on a Zoom call with you to write it, but I will put some effort into it. So if you make the effort and you send it to me, you can do it via Facebook or by my email address. I'll have people that are working with me comb through them. And I wondered if, Steve, if you would be amenable to doing that as well.
Yeah. I mean, there have already been some entries.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about
It's not
is
that I'm not amenable to it. I wonder how that works in tandem with judging the songs that people.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be eligible. Let's say it won't be eligible. But if you want to, just for the exercise of plumbing the depths of those questions, to write something down, I'll join you in that effort.
Okay, I have an idea that might work with that idea, which would be to do that, to offer that after the contest to songs that either did well in the contest or didn't quite make it in the contest, but there was something there to then help those people. Because really, the whole reason that Brave Angels is doing this contest is simply to get people to write more songs to help bring people together. So the more the merrier, and also to bring some more notoriety to the organization so that people know of its existence. So maybe there's a way to do that after the
All right,
fact.
well, we'll discuss how it is and then I'll post it. But here is the bottom line. Bringing people together equals saving democracy. If we are split,
Absolutely.
so you're not just feeling better, not feel good. Now, Steve, there were a couple of songs that you sang before. Would you please sing one of them because I've got to hear it. It was so great.
Well, I was okay. I don't know.
One of the new ones.
I was going to play a song that you've never heard. That's kind of a Braver Angels type of song. Is that okay?
Yes, whatever. Don't ask me. I don't know
I know
what.
at least the second verse of the song was definitely inspired by the work I did with Braver Angels. Took my son to breakfast the other day. Bacon and eggs and a stack of pancakes. Guy walks in, cup in his hand, looking pretty hungry. Reached in my pocket for a couple of bucks. My son said, "Dad, can he sit with us? He looks like he could use some company." I saw a seedy looking guy who I didn't trust. He might be dangerous. All my son was seeing was another human being. Good for him. Made me think, what if we were big-hearted? What if we showed up for each other, took that chance, showed a little love for one another, just because we can. Stop weighing and measuring everything. Stopped wondering what's in it for me. Yeah, what if we were big-hearted? Big-hearted. What kind of world would this be? I got this friend, he's a Republican. Me, I'm as blue as the Pacific Ocean. Used to be, we could disagree and never end up arguing. It's hard for me to keep my cool when he writes me off like I'm a misinformed fool. I won't budge, he won't budge. Neither one of us is listening. There's gotta be a way to bridge this great divide, to hear the other side. Maybe in the middle we could get back to being civil. Maybe not, but it's worth a shot. Yeah, what if we were big-hearted? What if we showed up for each other, took that chance, showed a little love for one another, just because we can. Stop weighing and measuring everything. Stop wondering what's in it for me. What if we were big-hearted? Truly big-hearted. Tell me, what kind of world would this be? Now who am I to tell anybody to do a little more when I'm always coming up short. Still I have this thought. What if we were big-hearted? What if we showed up for each other, took that chance, showed a little love for one another, just because we can. Stop weighing and measuring everything. Stop wondering what's in it for me. Yeah, what if we were big-hearted? Oh, now what kind of world would this be? What kind of world would this be?
Oh my God. All right, everybody. Everybody. All right, I'm clapping for everybody.
Oh,
It's
I wrote that
so
with
great.
a woman from New York City, by the way, named Kate Shutt. Two of us.
Kate Shutt. Oh, it's so great. How recently did you write that?
In the last year, like about 8 months ago.
Really? What I was thinking about is something. You know what we've seen emerging? There are so many things where people are doing a reset. It is, and it was in this song, too. It's all of a sudden valuing humility, a little bit of humbleness, because at the sense that we're so competitive, we're so bright, we know what it is, and we don't want to hear what you've got to say because you're stupid and we've got the answer. This is another sickness.
Yeah, and even the most caring of us go to that place at times.
Oh, absolutely, and we're all, and I admit it. I am like that, because when I'm sure, I'm dismissive of things that just absolutely are contrary to things that are kind of axiomatic in myself, and that's called cognitive dissonance. It disagrees with what I believe in, and it's painful for me to have to separate myself from that, identity. But we've got to do that, and that's the whole thing about Black Lives Matter. We have to have a little humility to say, all of a sudden, maybe they've got something to say. Maybe get your hand down for a second. Maybe listen. That's what goes on in Braver Angels. Now, Sage, if you were there, I'm going to call you. Would you please identify yourself and give I know what the website is. It's called braverangels.com. But if there's any other information, Sage, for somebody who wants to write a song or engage somebody in writing a song or reach out to somebody that say, hey, I want to tell you about this. What I want to see, what would help America and the world is the emergence of songs of the kind of heart that Steve just sang. And if we can get that ignited through Noel Paul Stooke's, Music to Life, through Kerrville Folk Festival, which is kind of the one of the most important platforms for the emergence of songwriting talent, a lot of it unsung, first recognized there, those young singers, and of course the Clearwater, and etc. So, oh, by the way, I wanted to tell you, what is Steve's going to be doing with those students? He's going to write a song with them on Zoom, right? Because we're going to have the discussion. They're going to see the videos, a couple of videos of the Parkland students. Then they're going to talk about it, and I'll be leading that. And then, so I'm going to tell that. Let me see. Let me just text Sage. Sage, if you can get on the broadcast and under your name, Sage. They'll look for it. Give people, oh, there it is. Sage Snyder is there. Tell everybody whatever information they have to, so if they're interested, either in doing it or reaching out for somebody saying, hey, this is it. You're not left without a tool to follow up, okay? Okay, lots of love, and thank you, Sage. You're amazing. So what Steve is going to do, after the kids have, the students that you saw, oh, it's already posted. All right, let me see. So he's going to write a song with them on Zoom. Then we're going to record it the way you saw that the Parkland students are, and it's going to be great. All right. Thank you, Sage. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Now, you get to hear me a lot, you folks, and Steve is not on this a lot. And there were a couple of other songs, Steve, and I want to, you to do those, please, and then I want to sing with you the way we were doing the first song, or Blowing in the Wind, back and forth with Don't Laugh at Me, which is the song that my daughter said, I killed my father, she said, or I'm going to kill, because I became so completely wrapped up in living the message of Don't Laugh at Me that it took over my life for 20 years. All right, now is Sage
Mine
there?
too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm looking for Sage's post.
By the way, just so you know, after you told me that I might get to write songs or a song with those students, on that in that video,
Yes.
I took a lot of notes when they were talking.
All right.
And they had some good things to say, and when we get together, I might start the conversation with, what if we wrote a song called "Choose Love," or what if we wrote a song called, "Don't Let Anybody Tell You Any Different." I wrote down this whole page of things that those kids said, because you're writing songs with kids. That's the secret, is to wherever you can to capture their hearts and minds and their words. So anyway, speaking of which, this song was not written about the Parkland situation. It wasn't written about Black Lives Matter, although they certainly do, and although some of this applies to that. This was one of 4 songs that I've written since the virus has entered our lives, and about it, about all the feelings that come to the forefront with what we've been going through. And specifically, I wrote this with my friend Seth Gleer, who you know very well, Peter, and it was after reading an op-ed piece by a guy named Charles Eisenstein. And you can decide for yourself whether you want to read it or not, or whether you like it. But it really moved me, and it was called "The Coronation" by Charles Eisenstein. And it just led to this song. And, the main gist of it was not so much about what we're going through right now, but more the opportunity that we have been given to reassess or reset our society, our lives, the pace at which we live our lives, the effect of global warming and what we put into the air and what we do. And, the dolphins have started swimming into the canals in Venice for the first time in 100 years, I mean, that there are some things that if you think about the going back to normal, you hear people go, when are we going to get back to normal? And I'm more of the, maybe the new normal, like it needs to be reassessed normal. Let's keep the good parts of normal and maybe change some things that we would have never even slowed down long enough to find out were a problem had this not happened. So this is called "The Coronation," and I'm going to be joined on a harmony by my quarantining partner, wife, Ellen, who's not, she's not in the picture, but she's sitting right here. We don't have the budget to get her on camera. It would just send the budget right out of the, When this storm is all over and there's no risk of exposure, will we still stand where we stood? Will it be back to business as usual? Or can we build a world more beautiful than we ever thought we could? Welcome to the coronation. We're all creation. Gets an invitation to a new world order. I'm talking about liberation from our story of separation, where together we find salvation, love with no borders. It's just around the corner. The crown can come from the ashes, even as the lightning flashes. We will use the sparks to see the myth that fuels our compulsion, that keeps us in perpetual motion, is stealing our humanity. Welcome to the coronation. We're all creation. Gets an invitation to a new world order. I'm talking about liberation, our story of separation, where together we find salvation, love with no borders. It's just around the corner, love with no borders. It's just around the corner. A reunion meant for everyone. A reunion meant for everyone. Everyone. Welcome to the coronation. We're all creation. Gets an invitation to a new world order. I'm talking about liberation from our story of separation, where together we find salvation, love with no borders, just around the corner, yeah. Welcome to the coronation, yeah. We're all creation. Gets an invitation to a new world order. I'm talking about liberation from our story of separation, where together we find salvation, love with no borders. It's just around the corner, love with no borders. It's just around the corner. Welcome to the coronation. It's just around the love with no borders. I'll meet you around the corner. There you go.
Ellen, would you stick your face in the picture for a moment so I can blow you a kiss, please?
Oh, I love you, Peter.
I love you too. Mwah!
Mwah.
Oh my God, look at you. Oh my
I
God.
look the same.
You sound so great.
Thanks.
Yeah, I loved your voice. You too. You know, I mean, you're like a married couple.
Yeah, that's right. We get to hang together for,
Right, I'm
for
telling
months.
you. Now, let me ask you, would you please do the other song that you did a little bit of before? Because, again, this is such a pleasure, as such a treat for everybody. And for me, I only did this once before, when you came to the house, and Peter, Paul, and Mary, the three of us, sat down and you played us a bunch of songs. And the three of us, I'd say about every third song, we all cried. Every third song, because we were so moved by, not just because you were, pulling our heartstrings, but because your insights and your sensitivity was so profound. And of course, you know the story. I don't want to tell the story, but there's a story about coffee and a cactus in a coffee can. You know, these things have repercussions. You cannot believe how they affect people sometimes. I can tell you stories, but I just got to say, I keep on thinking, I said this many years ago, Steve, if there were to be a musical with your songs, which are painting a picture of the kind of flux that I'm feeling tonight, I think that, you know, forget about Broadway. I'm talking about something that goes around to all the kids. Forget about the people that have to go through 20 years of psychiatry to come off their high horse.
You know, it occurs to me that I'd like to do a very quick plug for kidswritesongs.org.
Yes.
If you've never been to that website, it's kidswritesongs.org. And it's just where I house all the songs that have been written in the last 15 years with kids from kindergarten all the way through high school. As I like to say it, written by them with a little help from me. And they're all organized by, there's recordings of them, and the lyrics are there, and they're all organized by grade level. And if you're an educator or a parent and your kid's going through something, there's probably a song there that might help them through it, you know, or rally them to be a. Because that's the other thing we need to do that, you know, was so amazing about that video you showed, Peter, and the stuff we did with Parkland. It was so refreshing to be around kids who and young adults who have already accepted the passing of the torch to be part of being of service in long after we're gone, you know.
Which was true of those kids that you saw in that video.
Absolutely.
I was sitting there, and when Bethany came on, because we showed them one of her, not this video, there's another video of her singing No More, which is an old Negro spiritual. When they did that and she came in, they just fell all over her. You know, I mean, they are so filled with positivity and respect for something of substance. It's like the opposite of saying, well, what do you think of my bracelet? And am I not famous? And you know, I mean, it just
and
they're really something.
Mobilizing them and uniting them. You know, one of the other things that one of them said was, if we're united, they can't hurt us.
That's right.
I was like, okay.
She did. You know how old she is? She's 14 years old. Oh, no, that was the one 15 years old. But, you know, there's another thing about this music. If the young people can sing the music like the Parkland students, and they can get to the hearts of the college students to get them out to vote. Because if we don't vote, you know, democracy, I mean, that's obvious, democracy, but at this point, if we say, it doesn't matter. Hey, if it doesn't matter now, I don't know. Steve, do us another song, please.
All right, I'm not sure which one you were talking about, but
well, you said there were two of them, and one of them was more subtle and complex, and that was the one you just did. And then
okay. All right, let's see. Last night the tears were more than just fear. The news hit way too close to home. I've been talking with friends about when this will end. The truth is that none of us know. I feel paralyzed. I've been staying inside, keeping the wick of hope lit until further notice. until further notice. New rhythms, no rhyme, still I'm resigned to look for the gift I've been given, to finish that book, to take a good look at the pace of the life I've been living. All of humanity searching for sanity, figuring out how to go through this until further notice. Until further notice. Our greatest power is winning our power if we're willing to do a little learning. And if there's an angel that flies from Montgomery, send us a song as a sermon. Some waiting on checks that some won't ever get. Floating can feel just like drowning. Still there's stars in the sky. Love is in good supply. In a way, we're already rebounding. So I'll keep on trying, keep laughing and crying, even when I feel a bit broken. I'll be keeping the wick of hope lit until further notice. Until further notice. Until further notice.
Yay! Now do me one quick favor, because I love this song, and then we'll do Don't Laugh at Me. We don't do that here. This is one of the great songs ever written.
Let's see, I hope I remember all the words. All right, I'll give it a shot. I was standing by my locker, minding my own business, when some bully came barreling down the hall. He grabbed me by the collar, said, "Give me $1. If you don't, I might have to push you against that wall." I was scared, I was mad, I was terrified. I said, "Leave me alone." Just as I noticed my soccer team buddies coming in from practice, they came over and said, "What's going on?" Oh, we surrounded that boy and said, "We're not going to hurt you, but what you're doing is just plain wrong. Being mean to other people is no way to have fun. Let me ask you something. Where are you from?" We don't do that here. Oh, no, no, we don't do that here, no. We share, we care, we protect one another, we do our best, and we believe in each other. That's what we do here. That's what we do here. We don't call each other names like dork or lemonhead. We don't put gum in anybody's hair. We don't talk back to our teachers or make fun of people's features or put them down for what they choose to wear. We don't push, shove, punch, kick, slap, or bite. We don't tease or gossip or start food fights. Not us, no. We don't do that here. Oh, no, no, we don't do that here, no. We care, we share, we respect one another, we do our best, and we believe in each other. That's what we do here, yeah. Oh, that's
Uh,
So before you start this, though, that was written by 106th graders in Walla Walla,
I
Washington.
know, I knew that. I knew that. I know that's right. That people got to know that. That those ideas, what where those Steve elicited that from them. Well, what do you think? What it butter. But the things that came out of their mouths were those words, and that's what the Parkland students were able to do, and to be able to tell their story, to not be obliterated, has been so healing, and to be amongst each other. I can't tell you how deeply I feel. And I know one of the children who was there was singing. You know, I don't. It's too sad. I don't want to talk about it. I want to sing this song. Steve, this is such a delight. It's such a
Way fun. Great. We'll do it again.
It's like sitting around, you know.
Oh,
A little boy with glasses, the one they call a geek. Little girl who never smiles, 'cause I got braces on my teeth.
I know how it feels to cry myself to sleep. And I'm that kid on every playground who's always chosen last. A single teenage mother trying to overcome my past. You don't have to be my friend, but is it too much to ask?
Don't laugh at me, don't call me names, don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me.
I'm the beggar on the corner. You've passed me on the street. I wouldn't be out here begging if I had enough to eat. Don't think I don't notice that our eyes never meet. Don't laugh at me. Don't call me names. Don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me.
I'm fat, I'm thin, I'm short, and I'm tall.
I'm deaf, I'm blind. Hey, aren't we all?
I'm black, I'm white, and I am brown. I am Jewish, I'm Christian. I'm Muslim, I'm Buddhist. I'm Hindu, and I practice Native American spirituality. Born in Sarajevo, born in Kosovo. I was born in Northern Ireland. I was born in Africa. I'm Hutu. I'm Tutsi. I'm gay. I'm lesbian. I am American Indian. I'm very, very young. I'm quite aged. I was born in Iraq, in Afghanistan. I was born in the Sudan. In Mexico, Canada, the United States of America. I'm Israeli. I'm Palestinian. I'm very wealthy. I am very, very poor. Don't laugh at me.
Don't laugh at me. Don't call me names. Don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me.
And someday, Steve, our grandchildren or their grandchildren are going to be shown this moment and they're going to say, you know something? Those guys were okay. They were all right. And I just,
Let us hope.
yeah. Well, no, it's true. It's true that this is special for me, and
Me too.
I wasn't even thinking about it until that moment, and I just said, you know something, this is an historic moment in the midst of a prophetic time. Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait.
Write that down. Historic. In the midst of a prophetic time.
That's right.
I mean, it'd be better with the British accent. Try it with the British accent.
An historic moment? A prophetic time? I beg your bloody rocker. All right, well, listen. Love you, man. Ellen, you are the best. I love you, too. Friends, the important thing is if you have a gathering and it's good and everything, and there are needs in the world, and you don't go forward with it, you've wasted the moment. So please put your heart into it. If we can, out of this, there don't have to be 20 blowing in the winds, but a few of them, and they should be sung all over the place, and they should be about all the disenfranchised and the aspiring and all the hopeful and all the dreamers and all the people who have not grown too cynical to be able to say.
And there are plenty of us that have
Yes,
not
there
grown
are.
too cynical.
That's right. Right.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you. Samir, applause for Samir. Samir.
Yay!
Yay. He's a singer too, by the way. All right, thank you all. Samir, you can turn it off and tell everybody. Oh, and Suzanne Barraza was there. Suzanne made a wonderful video for free. All of the songwriting that we did, the kids, we songwriters, and Suzanne did this for free. She made this film for the kids called Wake Up America, Wake Up, which is the title song of the album. And she's a school teacher. She has taught school. You know, everybody here. All right, Barbara Burton, I love you. All right, Carol Nash, I love you. Dallas Allen, yay.
I love you.
Yes, okay, we got to go.
Take good care. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.